to Short Film Saturdays. Another Saturday, more short films, a lot of fun. I'm so happy to be here. I know I say that every week, but I'm like legit happy to be here, I swear. My name is Nase DeSanders. I'm the Community Outreach Manager at Soleil Space. So let me tell you a little bit about Soleil. We're a media company based in Brooklyn, New York. Our mission is to achieve a more equitable and representative global film and television landscape. Our focus is on the global diasporas of Asia, Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, and the Middle East, with goals of elevating untold stories from these cultures, forming closer transcultural community bonds, and providing opportunities and resources for our creators to produce premium world-class content. We specialize in film, TV, and editorial media and aim to lift those underrepresented voices in these regions that are often not seen or not seen authentically represented in the global mainstream media. There's no better way to do that than with short films. That's why we're here, right? Shorts are often the purest form of artistic expression, and often, though not always, are executed within the boundaries of smaller production budgets. Since launching Short Film Saturdays in late summer of 2021, we have featured 72 films from 58 filmmakers in 27 countries to date. Wow, that's a lot. We're really getting up there in numbers. I'm super excited to add to those numbers today because we are joined by Sofia Camargo. Let me tell you a little bit about this amazing filmmaker. Sofia Camargo is a New York-based filmmaker born and raised in Bogota, Colombia. She holds a BA in Anthropology and Art History from Universidad de los Andes and an MFA in Film from New York University. Her work as a filmmaker explores women and domestic life through deeply textured, sensual, yet disquieting storytelling. Her latest short film, Al lado del río, By the River, that's what we're watching today, 2019 was awarded the Official Selection Jury Award by the National Association of Latino Independent Producers and was a part of the official selection of the Cartagena International Film Festival in 2020. It was also selected as a Vimeo staff pick. During her MFA, Camargo was a Purin Foundation Scholar and a recipient of la beca del Fondo de desarrollo cinematográfico de Proimágenes. She also received the Nikon Storytellers Scholarship in 2018, the Jeff Lima Production Award in 2020, and the Black Family Prize 2022. From 2020 to 2022, Camargo worked as head of creative development at the NYU Production Lab. So, without further ado, I would love to toss it over to Sofia so she could tell you a little bit about the film we'll be watching today. Go ahead, Sofia.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here and to be part of this space. The film we're going to see next is the first short film I made in my home country, so it's very special to me. I traveled to Colombia with a couple of my classmates from NYU, so that was very special too, and they met some of my friends back home. So it was a very special time that I'll always carry with me. And I don't want to say a lot about the film. You should watch it yourselves.
Wonderful, super exciting. So here's how it's gonna go. Right now, we're going to watch Sofia's film, Al lado del río. After the film, do not go anywhere because we're gonna be right back here with an amazing Q&A. We'll get to ask Sofia all those hard-hitting questions. And then at the end of the Q&A, we'll be taking audience questions. So if you have a question for Sofia, please stick around to the end. And with that, it's YouTube, so I have to say it. Like and subscribe, and let's enjoy the film. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Short Film Saturdays. For those of you who might be just joining us, we have just watched Al lado del río, an amazing short film by Sofia Camargo, who is joining us today. And now, my favorite part, obviously, we get to ask some questions about it. So to start off easy, Sofia, what inspired you to make this film?
I think it's a mix of memories I had from my childhood, traveling to like warmer places in Colombia, with this specific New Year's Eve I spent with my best friend and her mother and her sister at a house that felt and looked a little bit like this, and we were all women and we were celebrating, but there was also this like heaviness in the air, and I started to feel like I wanted to explore that feeling, and that the fact that even being in vacation, even being in such a like lush tropical environment, there were this like feelings and emotions under the surface.
That is very interesting. So I do want to kind of touch on the location. I understand you have quite a personal connection to the location at which this film was shot. Can you tell us a bit about that, please?
Yes. I visited this house when I was like 11 years old. I went on a like short trip with my family's friends, and I was there on my own. My parents weren't there. And that house became very special to me. I always remembered it because it's very mysterious and strange, but beautiful. And it's located in this very special town in Colombia called Armero, which is very famous for a volcano tragedy that happened. So the town itself has a very like strong energy. And I remember there's a place in that house where there's very the river is there, and this river has very cold water because it comes from the mountains. So I always thought about this house, and then after I wrote the movie, I was location scouting for the house, and I kept looking for houses and visiting different places, but I kept thinking about the specific one. So I found it again 20 years later, and
Wow.
I realized it was the right one, and so that's where the film takes place.
Wow, that is amazing. Like it was meant to be. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So then getting into the nitty-gritty of the film, we notice that a recurring motif is bugs and insects. So we see a lot of close-ups of bugs. Both sisters have moments where they're playing with little bugs, and we can almost constantly hear the crickets in the background. Can you please tell us about the inclusion of that detail?
Yes, I think in general I like when images are are enough and say enough, and they like build layers and build texture, and they like create a world. And I was trying to do that myself, and bugs and the sound of the specific landscape, they're so specific to that place and the feeling I was trying to recreate, that I realized they were a very important part of the film, and a very important part of like creating that world and allowing the audience to experience that environment. So the bugs are there, and bugs are interesting. They're like beautiful, but we're all a little bit scared of them, and they're like gross but also mysterious. So I think, yeah, I like animals in general, and I think there always be animals in my films.
I love it. Very cool. So then we're also shown a very clear class divide between the workers of the home and the family that we can assume owns the home. Can you tell us a bit about why you included that element in the film?
Yes. I think, I mean, this is part of my upbringing, and this is part of like Colombian society in general. There's a very strong class division, and all of Colombians are part of how that plays in your like daily life, and it clearly has a like an influence in the way you think about yourself, the way you think about others, the way you navigate life. And that division was part of like my home, the way I was raised, the way I understood the world first. So I think I'm always, every time whenever I'm gonna make movies in Colombia, that class part of it will be part, because it's the reality of my country, and it's something that I'm interested in exploring, and I'm interested in talking about and discussing. And I would say that the characters I had written were actually way more important in the script. And then like every time, sometimes as you're editing, you realize that you have to simplify your story.
Yeah.
But for me, the workers of the movie are in some way the people who are sustaining this family.
Yeah.
And their names were Angel and Socorro, which means help. So they were there in a way saving this family from this pain and understanding something, even if it's not being verbalized. So yeah, that is like a very important part of the movie.
That is very, very interesting. Wow. So let's chat about the mother's character a bit. We can see from the very first scene that she's tired. You could even say exasperated, and the girls are not helping with their bickering and their back talk. Can you please tell us a bit about the choices you made when you were writing her character?
The mother's a very interesting character because I think it's the character that I relate to the most.
Mm.
Um, because yeah, it's the character that symbolizes pain and the struggle to like communicate how you're actually feeling.
Yeah,
Um, and I wanted to create this tension between the family members. I think whenever you love someone, you're, or at least that's how it was in my house, you're always trying to confront them and like challenge them so they either break and cry or break in anger, but there's some sort of release. So I think the girls are playing that game. They all know that there was a recent divorce that is not being discussed, and they see their mother's pain, but they're angry about it too,
yeah,
and they're all like exploring their own experience and their own feelings in different ways. So I was trying to create this like battle between them because that's how it is in family.
very interesting. And then almost too simple a question to ask, but I do have to ask it. Why the river? Why are the girls so drawn to this river? The mother has a very good reason to say, no, don't go there. Someone recently drowned. I'm with the mom on that one. But there's such a pull for the girls, so they by the end of the film absolutely have to go. Why is that?
I think the river is like, I mean, it's the fun, it's the adventure, it's the unknown. That's where the girls want to go. I also think a river symbolizes something that is in constant transformation, that cleans itself, that um changes the landscape around it. And I think, I mean, you can see, you look at the river and you're like, no one drowned in that river. So you
Yeah,
can, so the mother's nervous because she's nervous about this new life and just being on her own with the weight of this family, and she doesn't want them to do anything because she's nervous, but they're gonna do it anyway
yeah,
because they want to be alive. And I think it's a lie, or they don't believe it, or it's, and that's the place where they meet because it is a place of fluidity and transformation and renewal. And for some mysterious reason, I keep writing films where like women keep walking into the water, and that's just like weird, but I keep doing it.
very cool. That was so well said. Beautiful. I love it. So, what were some of your visual references that you used to create this film? This film has a very clear, distinct visual footprint, you could say. So, I'd love to know how you came up with these looks.
hmm um I'm a very like photography oriented director, so I'm always thinking about the specific way I want to portray something. So I, in many ways, what I was trying to do was I was trying to create for the beginning of the film a sense of, I wanted them to feel trapped, to feel like they couldn't escape this place, that there was a lot, like all the compositions are very like small and tight and cluttered, and there's a lot of layers.
Yeah.
um because I was trying to evoke that sense of like being trapped and like family, and how family can feel like. And I think some of the influences were filmmakers like Claire Denis, like Lucrecia Martel, like
Mhm.
um Chantal Ackerman. I was at that point in my career, in my studies, I was like discovering women filmmakers and that I didn't know before, and that was incredible to me because I realized that there was this way of like telling stories and looking at the world that felt more compatible or honest or close to the way I wanted to portray things.
Yeah.
So I kept looking at their films and being like, oh, I like this, and I wanted to create a film that was like non-classical in its structure. Like a lot of it is like images that make you feel something, and this weird like sounds and this mysterious place, but you're not keeping track of like a plot necessarily.
Yeah. No, yeah, I especially when you say these filmmakers that you are kind of looking at while making this, it comes together. It is absolutely 11 out of 10. I love it. So, how do you feel your upbringing in Colombia has affected your artistic voice now? You've touched a little bit on it when talking about how you came up with the film, but yeah, if you could get more into that.
I mean, I think our upbringing is probably everything we are, and we're always trying to like unlearn or separate ourselves from all these things and memories and experiences and feelings we have as children. I think my upbringing informs everything I do as an artist, and it informs both the things that interest me and the things that I'm trying to talk about or criticize, push away from me. And in many ways, I think growing up as a Latin American woman and in the specific social class, which is like middle class in Colombia, in a country with so many like class and racial divisions, had a lot of influence in the way I want to tell stories. But I think specifically since I moved to New York, I realized that there were many things about my identity that I had never questioned and I had never thought about, because I was probably always surrounded by people that were very similar to me. So New York in that way was, I think, the best thing that has ever happened to me, because it allowed me to actually see otherness, and by seeing otherness, question a lot of the things that I had assumed as normal, or I was and I was able to like discover myself in that process. And I think it's a process that will keep going as I go, and that will inform my filmmaking.
Wow, very nice. Very nice. Okay, great. So I have a question. I have something that I would like for you to recommend to the audience. But before I say that, I would like to remind you that our audience is very, very spread out, people from all over the world. So, what are some Colombian films or filmmakers you could recommend to this very diverse, very spread out audience?
Oh wow, that is a hard question. I'm very excited about the emerging filmmakers in Colombia, especially women. I think I see a couple of my colleagues were all producing films, and I think that's something new. But I would say recent filmmakers that I admire, there's Franco Loli. I really like his films and his approach. There's a very famous Colombian movie that I like called La Estrategia del Caracol, and I also recommend that. I don't know what the translation would be, something like the snail strategy or something like this.
Okay.
And yeah, those are my recommendations.
Alrighty, I love it. I'll definitely be checking those out. So with that, I would like to open the floor to audience questions. Y'all can submit your audience questions. Go, go, go. And while you're typing, I have two more questions for you, Sofia. My first one is, what is next for you? I happen to know you're working on a feature film project. Can you tell us a bit about that? Are you allowed to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. There's two things happening right now. I'm editing my thesis film, which is another short film about this little 7-year-old who feels threatened by her mother's pregnancy, and she's trying to sabotage her lunch party. And I think there's a lot of the things that you saw in By the River in this new film. So it's interesting to see that. I've been editing. I've been fighting the edit. It's really painful to edit a film you wrote and then shot, and then there's this new movie I'm trying to edit. And on the other hand, I'm just starting to write a feature which is about girls, adolescents in Latin America and their experience of like graduation and sexual awakening in a private school environment. And it is very like exciting but quite dark as well. So we'll see.
Very nice, very exciting. And so now obviously everyone who's watched the film is a fan of you now. So how can they keep up with you? Is it through social media? Is it a website, your IMDb page? Please let us know so everyone can be sure to follow you.
I think Instagram is a great place to stay connected. I'm happy to like answer messages and answer questions if there are more. And I'm working on my webpage. I used to have one, but I'm restructuring it right now. And I also have my IMDb, but it doesn't allow any like conversation. So if you wanna talk, Instagram is a great place to do that.
Great. Alrighty, and with that, we can take some audience questions. The first one we have is, where was this filmed? Loved the jungle scenery.
This was filmed in a region in Colombia called El Tolima, specifically in a town called Armero. And as I said before, it was a house I had visited when I was 11 years old, and it stuck with me. It stayed with me, and I went back.
Wonderful. Then another audience question we have, you mentioned you like to tell a different kind of story than what you usually see in Colombian media. What are some of the usual things you might see? Oh, that's a good one.
In Colombian media?
Yeah.
I think in Colombian or in Latin American television, there's as everyone knows, there is that strong presence of telenovelas or shows that feel way more like guided by narrative and fiction and action. And there's a lot of shows about narco traffic and a lot about social problems, a lot about, and those are all things that I think are interesting and valid, and there's an audience for them. But I'm interested in exploring something that feels more intimate, more solitary, more quiet, in some ways more feminine. And also, as an emerging filmmaker, I've always thought that I want to start writing and making films about things that I know and that are close to me and that I can explore. And maybe later in my career I'll be more brave and I'll start like exploring things that are more complicated.
Yeah. Well, I think the things tackled in this short were quite complicated.
That's true.
I think you're good where you're at, but no, of course, growing, evolving is always important as well. So we have more questions. Oh, one question is, what is your IG handle? You said that they could follow you on Instagram, but they weren't told your handle.
Yeah, it's Sofia with F, Sofia Camargo, my last name, and then the those little lines.
Yeah.
Two of those.
Okay, so Sofia Camargo with 2 little underscores afterwards. So be sure to follow her. Thank you for that question. That was a good one. Then we have, the ladies seem very independent. So speaking about the 2 young daughters, and frank with their mom. How come you portrayed this?
I think this is just like a reflection of my own family. I have a sister and I have a mother. My parents are not divorced, but that is our dynamic, very confrontational and very in some ways brusque and blunt. So, but also very beautiful because I think we see each other. So I think that's where it's coming from, just my own family.
Absolutely. Very nice. Then we have another audience question. They are rolling in, and I love to see it. of your films, which is your favorite? Oh, that's a hard one. It's like picking a favorite child.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, the older they get, the more I like them.
Yeah.
I now that I'm editing my new film, I'm loving By the River. But I would say I really love the first film I made, and you can watch it on my Vimeo. It's called Eugenia. It's shot on 16 millimeter, and it's about this woman who goes to the beach and doesn't want to be with anyone. She wants to be on her own. And it was very special because it was my first film, shot on film, and it was just a magical experience. And it was like my entrance door to filmmaking. And there's something about that film that I haven't been able to fully recreate in my new films that I'll try to go back to that like very pure side of my filmmaking.
Very nice. You and women in water again.
I know.
All right, so we'll take one more audience question, and then we'll let that be it so we can be respectful of Sofia's time. Last question from Mario. He noticed there's not a lot of music in the film. There was no music in the film, Mario. Was this intentional?
There actually is a little music.
Oh, gasp. Sorry, that was my bad.
But it blends with the landscape, and it comes sometimes when you see the bogs, when the mother's walking towards the river, you do hear this like bells, but that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want it to like put some music in the film that was guiding your emotions or was like telling you how to feel. I like when music is more becomes this like other layer of what you're making. So that's how the movie in this film works. It's very minimal, but it's there, and I think it's enhancing this mysterious like ambiance.
Amazing. Alrighty. I still see some more questions, but we do have to put pause on them. Thank you everyone for submitting your questions. Thank you, Sofia, for taking the time to chat with us and to explore your amazing film. Everyone really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. So everyone, if you want to check out anything new happening with Soleil Space and Short Film Saturdays, you have to check out our website, www.soleilspace.com. It's easy to remember. Our next Short Film Saturday is not next week, November 5th, but the week after it, November 12th, where we're partnering with Third Horizon again, and we are featuring 2 Caribbean filmmakers, Caleb de Aguilar and Christian Carretero. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is YouTube, I gotta say it. And with that, thank you everyone, and thank you, Sofia. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.